Big disclaimer. These were sent to me by EPZ, but I have not been paid by anyone to say anything in particular about them. It was really cool of EPZ to reach out to me, and admittedly, I was kind of a jerk to them when I first got their email. It's not their fault. They were super polite and professional. It was entirely a me issue. See, I'm a really small channel, and while I was hoping for an opportunity to be able to work with various companies on videos, I didn't really think it would happen so soon. Initially, I thought it was a scam because it just seemed too good to be true at the time. It's entirely due to me doubting myself as a creator since I'm still super new to making this type of content. I actually reached out to my buddy Jamie over at Side Salad Audio to ask him like, hey, are these guys legit? And it turns out Jamie has worked with EPZ before and assured me that they are legit, and he had nothing but nice things to say about them. So I'd just like to say sorry to the team over at EPZ for being so standoffish at first. Thank you for sending these out for review and making this video happen. So, the EPZ Q1 Pro. EPZ is a small chi-fi company from, you guessed it, China. That's what the Chi in Chi-Fi stands for. The Chi-Fi scene has absolutely exploded in the past couple years, and every month or so it seems like there's a new release to get hyped up for, and many of these IEMs are quite good. However, it makes keeping up with the scene super hard. If I had a nickel for each time I bought an IEM that I really liked, only for that same company to release a newer model with similar performance soon after I bought the first one, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. That's how fast the market moves in Chi-Fi land. The steepest competition is in the ultra budget category, and that's the price bracket the EPZ Q1 Pro is trying to fit into. And there's what I would consider to be the cream of the crop among the ultra budget category: the Tongzu 1-er, the Moondrop Chu 2, and the Soundnotes 02. Those are like the 3 most popular. I haven't tried the Truthier Gate yet, and I never tried the Truthier Ola. I am sorry, Truthier fans. All of them have single dynamic driver configurations, much like the EPZ Q1 Pro. Seriously, the competition is fierce. The Q1 Pro is slightly more expensive than those options, coming in at $37 US. However, I have seen sales on other Chi-Fi websites that sell it at $30. So if you're interested in these IEMs, be on the lookout for those deals. Still, $37 is super affordable, but what I want to know, is it worth the $37 on its own, and how does it perform versus the competition? Let's find out. Build quality. These are built pretty well considering their price. They're made out of 3D printed resin, which makes them feel pretty freaking sturdy, and just holding them in my hand, they feel much better built than stuff like the Tongzu 1-er and the Soundnote 02, which are made of mostly plastic. Not quite as nice as the Chu 2, which is made of metal, but it's not far behind the Chu 2 in terms of overall build construction. Plus, being made of resin makes them super light. The cable is alright. It's similar in quality to other cables that are supplied with IEMs in this price bracket. It's not super nice, but it's totally serviceable. It doesn't tangle easy, and there's zero microphonic noise. It does hold its shape a tiny bit, but it personally doesn't bother me. For the price, I can't really complain. Also, I think these look really cool. I love this marbled blue color on the outside of the shell that I think looks visually striking, but also very clean and professional. They're also packaged really well too. However, besides a nice box, you don't get much included besides the IEMs themselves, the cable, 3 different ear tip sizes to choose from, and this little storage pouch. It feels pretty good, but I would have preferred something that resembles more of a case. The box is pretty nice though. Look at that, that's a sturdy box. Comfort. These have a semi-custom fit that a lot of other IEMs have, and I find them super comfortable. They conform really well to the shape of my ear, and once they're in, I barely notice them. The nozzle is a little on the larger size, though I didn't personally have an issue with it. For me, the nozzle doesn't insert super deep into my ear canal, and I do prefer a fit that isn't intrusive, so good. This is why I will never use edemotic IEMs. Another thing I like about the Q1 Pro is that it isolates super well. I could see people wanting to use these as like actual stage monitors. The passive noise canceling is very good. Like honestly, sometimes I would put these in when I just wanted some peace and quiet because that's how isolating they are. Sound quality. I think they're pretty solid tuning wise, but if you're an audiophile and you're into IEM specifically, you might not like what I'm about to say. These sound like Harman. No, wait, I promise I don't mean that as a bad thing. Hold on, come back. Harman is a sound profile that measures well and sounds pretty good. In fact, a lot of people might call it safe. A lot of IEMs that have been released recently have some variation of a Harman-like sound profile because, on average, many people prefer it. So I can't really fault EPZ for tuning their budget IEM to a common sound profile that is liked among a large group of people. On the flip side, I understand why some audiophiles will see an IEM that measures like the Harman target and immediately get turned off by it. It's because there's just so many Harman IEMs out there right now, and we're just getting a little tired of it and want something different. But I don't have a problem with Harman. It's a good sound signature. Plus, this is just my opinion on it, and if you're looking at my review as your only source of information on this IEM, well, don't do that. I'm just one guy and I'm not perfect. Get as much info as you can. But yeah, the tuning on the Q1 Pro is pretty good. You have a boosted bass, but it's contained within the sub-bass region, and then the high bass and lower mids have a slight tuck, and this prevents any muddiness. It's not a very punchy sound signature, but the quality of the bass is still very tight and clean. I do think the lower mid-range and high bass sounds a little thin. Not terribly thin, however. It definitely isn't like a Beyerdynamic DT770, but I personally would prefer a bit more in that region to make instruments in that region sound a bit more full. Though if I'm being honest, this is a nitpick and isn't an outright bad characteristic of the tuning. This dip is pretty common in headphones and IEMs that are tuned to the Harman target. Plus, the rise in the sub-bass does result in some really fun and satisfying low-end rumble. It's just not super punchy and impactful. Mid-range is very clear, and as I said before, free from any muddiness. As with any Harman-tuned IEM, the ear gain region is very forward. Vocal presence is something this IEM does quite well, and if you're looking for this kind of forward vocal presentation, then this IEM is worth considering. And pretty much all lead instruments that fall in the mid-range sound quite good. There are going to be some who find it a little on the shoutier side. However, I wouldn't describe it as being overly shouty, but if you're not a fan of emphasized ear gain, this may not be something you like. If you're looking for a song recommendation for this IEM, I found that Let You Down from the Cyberpunk Edge Runners OST to be very nice through these. Vocal intimacy is an aspect this IEM does quite well, and this is a really vocal heavy track, so naturally this track sounded really good through the Q1 Pro. Treble is a bit of a rough area. It's nothing I would classify as bad, but I can definitely hear maybe one or two noticeable peaks in the mid-treble that I think hinders its frequency response. Musical ensembles that have a lot of cymbals, modern rock and metal bands in particular, kind of highlight this. It's not sibilant, though it can just err on the side of sibilance sometimes. It's not bad. It can just be fatiguing if you listen to musical genres that have prominent cymbals, or in musical recordings where the treble is mixed a little too high. I also feel like that upper treble peakiness adds an artificial timbre to the IEMs in general. It has a bit of a metallic edge. To sum up frequency response, it's another in-ear monitor to release with a Harman-like sound profile. If you're a fan of this style of tuning and you're in the market for something affordable, chances are you're really gonna like this IEM. I'm gonna run through the subjective aspects of the Q1 Pro pretty quickly. Its subjective performance is acceptable. It performs at the same level as other IEMs that are in this price category. Its timbre is a little artificial sounding, but it's not bad. It sounds like a well-tuned pair of IEMs, but it doesn't sound super natural like a Moondrop Kato does. That upper treble peakiness definitely hinders its timbre a little bit. Really, it doesn't have any soundstage, but that's to be expected in a pair of IEMs, so I can't really complain. Instrument separation is something it does better than the competition. A lot of instruments are separated, and it does a good job of allowing the listener to hear individual instruments isolated from one another. That was a pleasant surprise. I said earlier that it has some peakiness in the mid-treble, but the treble extension on this in-ear monitor isn't the best, so this might lead some people to think it's not very detailed. Though, the definition of detail in the audiophile community tends to vary from person to person. In terms of bringing out small micro details and information in recordings, it does an okay job at doing that. I once again can't really complain about this aspect too much because these IEMs are pretty damn cheap, so I don't really expect it to be a detail monster. Again, it's about the same as other more popular IEMs in this price range, and that's perfectly fine. One thing that's worth mentioning is that these IEMs take really well to EQ. They have a pretty minimal level of distortion, so if you want to get into your EQ software of choice and really tweak the frequency response to your heart's content, these will perform quite well. Check it out, these are my EQ settings that I use on my Qdelix 5K, and it sounds damn good. I left the sub bass where it is, and I increased the high bass and low mids just a bit, and then brought down the mid treble a couple decibels. I really like this sound profile. Do I recommend it? I'm gonna give this a very hesitant recommendation. Yes, with an asterisk. On its own, it's a very solid in-ear monitor. The reason I hesitate though is the price. Yes, it is affordable. However, It's in a really weird spot because it costs more than stuff like the Tongzu One or the Moondrop Chu 2, which sit at $25 and $20 respectively, and these are $37. It's more expensive than other ultra-budget IEMs, but it's cheaper than what's in the next tier up, the Critical X Truthier Zero Red. Its performance is on par, perhaps slightly better than IEMs in the lower price bracket, but it doesn't outperform the Zero Red. Another reason people may not want to buy this IEM is because it's another Chi-Fi IEM that's tuned to Harman in a sea of Harman-tuned IEMs. People are starting to get tired of Harman, much like how I'm starting to get tired of Chris Pratt being in absolutely every movie. Can we please just get rid of this man already? He's even Garfield now. I know it seems like I'm being harsh on this IEM, however, I want to go on record and say I do like the EPZ Q1 Pro. It's a well-built IEM that's very comfortable and is well-tuned. It takes very nicely to EQ, and hell, I even like how it looks. So if this style of IEM appeals to you, then yes, go ahead and purchase it. But there's another IEM in my collection that looks cool, is very comfortable, is well-tuned, and takes well to EQ. It's the Tongzu One. If you're looking for absolute neutrality, I gotta give it to the One. At 25 bucks, it's hard to beat. I think my issue with the Q1 Pro is that it doesn't do anything innovative or different that sets it apart from its competition while being slightly more expensive, which is why it's hard for me to say it's a straight up blind buy. I personally would love to see an IEM that's more along the lines of like a warm tilted neutral sound profile. Your boy likes his mid-bass punch. A lot of IEMs EPZ makes seem to be tuned this way, and I can understand why they might choose to tune it to a sound signature that's widely considered safe, but it was released at a time where consumers are just getting tired of Harman, and I think that may be holding it back in terms of being competitive with other Chi-Fi brands, at least among audiophiles. But in a vacuum, it is a good IEM. Thank you so much to EPZ for sending me one of these. You were a pleasure to work with, and I'm excited to see what you have in store for the future. Which is why it's so hard to say this, but you know, Apple EarPods, they're just way better. I mean, was there really any doubt?